And Martin is no longer totally committed to nonviolence. No. And I'm a Baptist, you see. We put the convert on the bench, and they sit there until they see the light. We call it the mourner's bench, you see. So I got Martin Luther on the mourner's bench. And one day we might make a man out of him, you know that? Might take the halo off his head. So whether you like our leaders or not, we got them. We got our Stokely Carmichaels. Yes. We got our Rap Brown. We had our Malcolm X. We got our Floyd McKissick. And you got the old man of the sea. We are living today in not a great society. We're living today in a sick society. This is a sick society. And we young people, I noticed the word we, and I'll be 60 years old this year, baby. Keep the faith and spread it gently, but save a little for me. And
imagine becoming one of the most powerful members of Congress at a time when segregation was still legal across much of America. This was the achievement of Adam Clayton Powell Jr. He was a minister, civil rights activist, newspaper publisher, and one of the most influential African American politicians of the 20th century. His life was marked by remarkable accomplishments, bold leadership, and significant controversy. Adam Clayton Powell was born November 29, 1908 in New Haven, Connecticut, the second child and only son of Adam Clayton Powell Sr. and Mattie Buster Schaefer, who both were of mixed race. Because he had mixed black and white ancestry, he was born with hazel eyes, light skin, and blonde hair, which he apparently dyed regularly. His mixed race complexion also afforded him the safety and privileges of white skin during his college years. There were 4 other black men at the college Adam attended who were, needless to say, a little dismayed at his playing both sides of the racial fence. But, one does what one has to do when there's no other alternatives. His father, Adam Clayton Powell Sr., became the pastor of the famous Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem, New York. The church grew into one of the largest black congregations in the country. In 1937, Powell succeeded his father as pastor of the Abyssinian Baptist Church, and Powell Jr. remained the pastor of that church until 1972. Powell gained national prominence as a young pastor during the 1939 New York World's Fair. He organized a picket line at the World's Fair's offices in the Empire State Building, and as a result, the number of black employees was increased from about 200 to 732. In 1941, he led a bus boycott against the Transit Authority and their unfair hiring practices that resulted in 200 black workers getting hired and set the stage for more to get hired. Powell also led the fight to have drugstores that operate in Harlem to hire black pharmacists. He encouraged residents of Harlem to only shop in stores where blacks were allowed and hired to work. Powell was a master organizer for change. He would later provide...
Is this a land with liberty and justice for all? No! Is this one nation, indivisible, under God? No! Either let us practice the democracy we are preaching, or shut up.
He would later provide his 20 years of boycott experience to Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks. Powell was the first black person from New York to be elected to Congress and the fourth African American from the North to be elected in the post-Reconstruction era. He became the most powerful black politician in the Democratic Party. He served in the House of Representatives from 1945 to 1971, when he lost to Charles Rangel. He was a fiery national spokesman on civil rights and social issues. He urged presidents to support emerging nations in Africa and Asia as they gained their independence after colonialism. He single-handedly convinced Eisenhower to integrate the U.S. Armed Forces and other government facilities and buildings in Washington, D.C. He did all of this before any civil rights legislation was passed in the 1950s. Adam Clayton Powell Jr. transformed American politics by expanding opportunities for African Americans and using congressional power to advance civil rights and social welfare legislation. In 1961, after 16 years in the House, Powell became chairman of the Education and Labor Committee, the most powerful position held by an African American in Congress ever at the time. As chairman, he presided over federal social programs for minimum wages and Medicaid. He expanded the minimum wage to include retail workers and worked for equal pay for women. He supported education and training for the deaf, nursing education, and vocational training. He led legislation for standards for wages and work hours, as well as for aid for elementary and secondary education and school library. Because of Adams' seniority and congressional might, along with his friendships with black revolutionaries like Malcolm X and Stokely Carmichael, Powell's list of enemies began to grow in the early 1960s. Many of his so-called colleagues were determined to remove him from his seat as chairman of the Education and Labor Committee at any cost. Following allegations of corruption, in 1967, Powell was excluded from his congressional seat. But Powell challenged that decision, and in 1969, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled in Powell versus McCormick that the House could not exclude a duly elected member who met the constitutional qualifications for office. The decision became an important constitutional precedent regarding the limits of congressional power. Nevertheless, the damage was done, and Powell lost his chairmanship of the Education and Labor Commission, which was, sadly, the ultimate goal of his political enemies. Although Powell returned to Congress, his congressional influence declined, and he lost re-election in 1970. Adams spent the last of his remaining years on the island of Bimini in the Bahamas after he ended his political career. April 1972, Powell became gravely ill and was flown to a Miami hospital from his home in Bimini. He died there April 4th, 1972, at the age of 63 from prostate complications. He was a young man, a great man, gone too soon. Over the years, Adams' contributions have been literally forgotten or erased from the history books. It was Giancarlo Esposito's portrayal of Powell in the Godfather of Harlem television series that prompted me to do a little research into Powell's important role in the history of our people. Of course, there is a lot more to this important figure than can be presented in a 10-minute presentation, but hopefully it will inspire others to do their own research on the life and times of Adam Clayton Clayton Powell Jr. Say his name, because today's Black Congress should and can learn many lessons from his great legacy. Again, say his name. Adam Clayton Powell